Hey mama, are you feeling overwhelmed? Like no matter how hard you try, you're still not the mom you know you were meant to be? I get it, and I'm here to tell you you were designed for more, and together we can get you there. Welcome to the Nature to Nurture podcast. I'm Tiffany, an early childhood specialist, advocate, and mom on this journey with you. I've spent years supporting families and working with children in those critical first 5 years of life, where every moment counts. But here's the thing. The same caregiving practices that help 0 to 5-year-olds thrive are the very same practices that help us, as adults, live purposeful, connected, and thriving lives. It all begins with intention, mindfulness, and showing up for ourselves and our kids. In this podcast, I'll help you discover simple tips and practices for raising your little ones with intention and care, while also guiding you to become the caregiver that you've always wanted to be, the one that you dream of. Each week, I'll share stories from my own life, some practical strategies, and research-backed insights to help you slow down, reconnect, and find joy in the everyday moments. Whether it's creating a bit of time for unstructured play, setting up your nurturing routines, or taking care of yourself as you care for your kids. This is the place for you. If you're ready to embrace the kind of motherhood that feels aligned with who you truly are, be sure to follow the podcast, leave a review, and join our supportive community. We are here to lift each other up every step of the way. All right, Mama, let's dive into today's episode. Hey there, everyone. Happy 2025. I know that this episode is coming out as we have hit the new year. So I want to welcome you all to this new year on the Gregorian calendar, 2025. Here we are. I have been absent for a little while, about a month. I have not recorded any episodes. And that's because in the last episode that I recorded, I shared with you all that I was going to bring 6 amazing gifts to you as we were approaching Christmas. And as I went to record those episodes, I had to pause. I realized that I actually had to go through and I had to do some of this work myself. And so following the theme that I already had in November, I spent another month deep in reflection, pausing from many of the activities and pulls that I have in my life, and really taking time to reset. I knew that this was coming. I've been alluding to it for a little while here now. I knew that coming into the end of the year, number one, I battle seasonal depression. So I knew it was going to be a bit slower of a time. And I also knew that I had been running, and I really needed to take a pause. I needed to take a break to set myself up to succeed in 2025, to set up my family to be where we want to be in 2025. And so that's what I did. Like I said, I completely reset and I dug into these gifts that I'm going to be giving you over this next week. So I'm excited to jump on into gift number 1. I'm going to go ahead and grab a drink of my coffee that has been burning my lips because I put it in one of those great insulated containers. And I encourage you to do the same. Grab a drink, grab a notebook because I will have some reflection questions for you here at the end. And let's jump in. Now, as I was thinking about delivering these gifts to you, I was so excited. And I told you I really had to step back and take a look at myself first. And that is exactly what gift number 1 is. Gift number 1 is the gift of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is so important. I'm going to dive into that a little bit, but I want to start off with an explanation of why I had to do this work first before I could share it with you. And this is work that I've done over and over again. But honestly, self-acceptance is the work that you have to do. Because before you can show up for your family the way that you dream, the way that you desire, you have to fully know and accept who you are and where you're starting from. Without this foundation, the journey forward becomes unclear. In fact, without this foundation, you don't even know
where you're leaving from, right? You can't start a trip if you don't even know where you're at. So let's start by looking at the actual definition of self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is the ability to embrace both the good and the not so good parts of yourself with honesty and with compassion. Now, this is not easy work. I know, because I actually had to sit in this gift the longest out of all of the gifts to really receive it. The real hard part there is that honesty part. Like, can you be honest for where you're at? The good, the bad, the ugly. Can you be honest about it? And can you also have understanding, compassion, and grace for yourself? Just because you're starting there doesn't mean that you have to put yourself down about it. Instead, you need to understand that your body, your experiences, the way you are, is a story of how you were raised, a story of the person that you were created to be. And we simply are who we are. We can't change that. We have what we have. We can't change that. But what we can do is we can be honest about what that is. We can be upfront. And when we are seriously honest, when we really take a look into ourselves and we're able to do that, that's when we're able to see the growth. One of the hardest truths is that oftentimes we are the ones who really know ourselves least out of all of the people that we're around. Your husband might know you better. Your kids might know you better. Your parents, your grandparents, your friends, your sisters, your brothers, they might know you better than you actually know yourself. You might be putting on a mask, trying to change, trying to be what everybody else has been expecting of you to be, so much so that you've lost sight of what is actually true, what is actually inside of you. The curious paradox is that when you accept yourself as you are, that's when you can actually change. And like I said, if you don't even know where you're starting from, you can't make out a route to where you want to go. Self-acceptance is going to be your starting point. And we know that self-acceptance is crucial for our mental health, for our well-being, and for our ability to impact the challenges and to build resilience so that we can step up and step into that next version of ourselves. So now let's go a little bit deeper into understanding why self-acceptance is so difficult. Honestly, it's scary. Oftentimes, like I said, you've got that mask on and you don't even want to see what you've been hiding behind that mask all the time. I know I do not wear makeup often, but when I do, I know that I don't want to wash my face off because when I wash it off, I can see all of the stuff that I was hiding and it leaves behind this dark residue all around my eyes. And it actually takes me a couple of times washing to get that mask, that makeup off of me and to be the true version of myself. And the same thing happens when we're looking at ourselves, at who we really are. As we're taking off those covers that we've been putting on, those faces, right? They say saving face. As we take that off, we go deeper and deeper and deeper into who we really are, what we really believe. And that's scary. I mean, that's something that you've been trying to avoid. And it might be something that you've been trying to avoid out of safety. You know, maybe there was someone in your past that said something to you and you held on to that and you said, I'm not going to be that person. And so you covered it up. You tried to change it. You hid it instead of accepting that really, truly, that's the person that you are. We oftentimes can be so afraid to take a look at those parts of ourselves that we see as not good enough, not perfect, not right, something to be embarrassed of, something that will make others run away from you. I know that I have a tendency when I get my true self called out on me, I oftentimes will spiral down into a dark hole that says, You don't like that part of me. You don't like who I am. I'm a bad person. And in order for you to like me, I need to change who I am. I need to change what you see, what you experience, because that is not what you want. And really what I'm telling myself is that me, who I really am, that core piece of me, is not what other people want. And so I'll change that, right? But then again, that's where we need to get down to. That's where we need to go back to, is that, are you actually really, really truthful with who you are in your heart and in your mind and in real life with other people? I have a heart that when I see somebody's flaws, you could call them, my heart is big and I say, oh, there's a reason for that. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe I don't understand. Maybe I just simply am not in line and I don't understand. Like, I'm really compassionate to other people. But when it comes to myself, I have zero compassion. It's like, cut it off, knock it off, stop doing that stupid stuff that's making everybody upset. Stop doing those stupid things that nobody understands. And, that's tricky. And as a person with ADHD, I can hyper focus on that and make it into an even bigger problem than it actually is. And I oftentimes slip into this habit of not actually accepting the fact, but instead trying to cover it and trying to move on to the next thing so I can avoid what I keep on bumping up against. I want to share with you all a personal example that I'm currently working on. So I had a work evaluation, end of year evaluation that I completed. And now I have already been reflecting, like I told you, for 2 months. So when it came time to work on this evaluation, I had already gone deep. I knew what was bothering me, what are some areas I wanted to work on, what are some areas that I really wanted to be truthful about instead of avoiding. And here we go to the evaluation. I'm not even kidding, I cried throughout the entire evaluation. And it was not in person. I was just in a deep, pensive spot in that reflection, typing up my responses. Anywho, it came out, what is one area that you struggle with that you'd like to focus on? And I had to be real. And I shared that one of the things that I really struggle with is focus and prioritization. I can get work done. That's 100% true. I also true, usually wait until the deadline to get that work done, but I can get that work done, right? And that's where I go into my focus and my priorities. It is so easy for me to want to latch on to the easy thing, the shiny thing, the new thing, the exciting thing, and to lose my focus and my prioritization on what actually needs to be done, on the hard stuff, right? And that is not only true in my work, that is also true in my personal life, in my relationships, in my home. I often get distracted, pick up other things, don't complete it. Some might say it's because of my ADHD, and I know it's because I don't want to do the hard focus work. I can get something done that doesn't take a lot of focus. If it is just mind numbing and you could do it with your eyes closed, no problem, I can do that. But if it actually requires me to focus, I'll shy away from it until I have the stress of a deadline to get it done. And taking the time to actually look at that and realize, that is something that is a big issue for me and it affects every facet of my life. That is one of the things that I'm going to be focusing on as I'm moving into 2025. And honestly, in the past, I've tried to pull up other solutions to kind of mask the problem, like, oh yeah, I've got everything on the calendar. Oh yeah, I've got task management. That's great. I schedule in my work time. That's great. But if I'm not actually focused and doing the hard stuff during that time, I'm not actually solving the problem. And so here's my proclamation to all of you that are listening and to myself. That is something that I need to make sure I'm doing. I need to cut out the distractions and do the hard work, really focus and get deep. And that was hard. That was hard for me to accept. I don't want to be the person who does that. I don't know. Maybe other people see that. I know that my family definitely sees that. I don't know if outside of my family people see that. But I know that I oftentimes put on a good face that I do get it all done, that I am hyper-focused. And honestly, I don't think I am. Now, this is something that, like I said, I am going to be intently concentrated on over the next year. In fact, it is my word of the year, focus, to make sure that I am focused on the task at hand, on the priority, and not on all of the fluff. So now let's jump into the actual process of self-acceptance, what it looks like, and then how you can get started. So there are 4 quick steps that I'm going to be sharing with you. Make sure that you have your notebook ready. Pause this episode and go grab it if you don't have it ready to go, because I want you to have these steps so that you can start working on this. Now, I want to remind you, this is not going to be a one and done task. In fact, you're going to have to be repeating this continuously. I want you to think of it like your favorite pair of jeans that you don't fit into, but you keep on putting them on because you're like, I'm going to wear them. I want to wear them. I want it to be fitting me perfectly, right? And so this is something that you're going to go to again and again and again and again until you feel like it's not a pair of jeans, but it's actually your second skin. All right, so what is step number 1? Step number 1 is to reflect on your current state, your habits, your routines, your strengths, and your struggles. So I want you to sit down, take some time to really think about what it is that you do on a regular basis, on a daily basis. What are some things that are common, whether it's at work, at home, at play? What are your habits? What about when something goes off of schedule? What's your habit at that point? Where are some areas that you feel really strong and proud about and I mean just confident and secure? And then what are some areas, habits, routines in your life that when they pop up, you feel unsettled, you feel anxious, you feel meh. That was my, static signal going through for all of you. So take a little bit of time to really reflect on that. And then I want you to make sure that you are writing down what you see, what you experience, how you behave, and do so without judgment. Nobody's going to be reading it. In fact, you don't even have to write it down in a sentence. You could write down 1-word bullet points that are explaining what happens when you wake up the kids in the morning in your morning routine, right? Or you could write down evening. How are you feeling? What are you doing regularly? Where is your mind? How is your attitude? And I want you to then, step number 2 is to write it down. Step number 3 is to label. I want you to label what you see in those observations. So for instance, for me, I see that at nighttime, as soon as that sun is starting to hide behind the mountains, I shut off. I have no desire to do anything whatsoever except for sleep. I get cranky, I get grouchy, I get lazy, I don't want to cook dinner, I don't want to pick up the house, I don't want to prepare myself for the next day. I oftentimes don't even want to brush my teeth. Like I am just done, close the book, my energy is zapped, completely finished. And the truth of the matter is, I can't do that. And so I really need to myself look at how can I shift everything that's going on in the evening so that it's happening earlier in the day? Or how can I shift this energy that I'm bringing in the evening? What is going on and what's really causing me to feel that meh once the sun goes down? Now, not only do I want you to label the truth of what's going on, but I also want you to look at it and have some compassion for yourself. It is so difficult for me when I wake up in the morning and I realize that my kids went to bed and I didn't even give them a hug and a kiss goodnight because I had already fallen asleep. Like, that hurts. And I also know I literally was exhausted, right? I don't want to give my kids that feeling, but my body was exhausted. And so I am able to find a little bit of that compassion in the situation. Doesn't mean that it's not true. It's 100% true. And it's 100% true that my kids will remember mom not giving them a hug and a kiss at night. That's not something that I want either. And that it doesn't take it away that I'm giving myself that compassion and that grace, that forgiveness that's not deserved, to move forward through that. It does, though, allow me to take it in without putting up a wall, a barrier, or trying to fight against the actual truth. I want you to repeat this once you have written down those truths. May I accept myself as I am today. May I learn to love and accept myself unconditionally. You are who you are, and that's never going to change. What's going to change is how you approach, how you handle, how you accept, how you flourish in who you are. One of my biggest faults, you could call, is my high stress and anxiety over leaving the house on time. And this is something that I battled for quite a long time, and it still pops up and rears its ugly head at me often. In fact, the other day I hit a deer, and it completely threw all of the stuff that I was doing off schedule. So I hit the deer, right? That took me an extra hour out of what I already had planned. And then I had to come home. I had to get my daughter ready to go to her Christmas party for her gymnastics team. And I started to realize that I was running behind on time. I wasn't operating in my planned day perfectly. And it caused me to start to get ugly at everybody. I was being snippy, snappy, telling everybody to hurry up and go. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. My voice was rising. I was speaking quicker. And my daughter told me that I was being so cranky. She's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I realized that I was putting this perfection about being on time onto myself again, something that I've been battling. And because I've done that self-acceptance, I know that I get ugly, snippy, snappy because I want to be on time, because I want to show up perfect, or whatever that means. I was able to stop, take a second back, and say to myself out loud, you don't have to be on time to be good. You are good just as you are. Things happen, life happens. And if you want to be the best you can be now, we've got to let go of that perfection voice speaking in your head. This is something that I have been working on for the past 2-3 years. And like I said, it still is rearing up. And one of the reasons that I really started to tackle this is because I saw it dripping out to my daughter. And I didn't want her to have that same attitude, that same belief inside of her that she's later going to have to work on. What we do, what we model, goes on to our kids. And modeling the fact that we can see ourselves truly, that we can have compassion for ourselves, and that we can choose to focus and to work on those areas that we're not so proud of, that's something that we're also going to model. All right, now you've done the reflection, I hope. You've taken some time to really label those truths. And here are the next steps that you're going to do. I want you to journal out what are the areas that you are strong in? What are the areas that you need improvements in? What are those truths? And I want you to identify, what do those truths look like, sound like, feel like? What actually happens during that time? And then through that, you're going to be able to identify and to address one micro habit, one little area that you can really start focusing on to impact yourself, to develop yourself, and as I said, to step into that next level of you as a person, of you as a parent, and to take the steps to create the life and the being that you want to be. When you are able to model self-acceptance in a good way, you're able to positively influence your own children's self-esteem and their own emotional well-being. You're modeling self-acceptance to your children, and you're teaching them about resilience and self-compassion. We see too many adolescents, young adults, older adults that still are struggling with resiliency and self-compassion. And that can lead to a myriad of things, such as trying to be perfect, figuring out what you need to be perfect, leading in, I hate to say it, but honestly, into drugs and substance abuse, leading into other ways to really give yourself that fake sense of self-compassion because you don't know how to do it, right? I know that I have experienced some of that, and I have beat myself up for it. And I don't want my kids to go through that fact of beating themselves up. I don't want them to experience that. This work is hard. It is not easy. It is easier to close your eyes, close the book, and act like you don't see, feel, hear, experience any of it. But that is not what you want for your kids. So I encourage you to take the hard step and to push into really looking at yourself, figuring out where you are so that you know where you're starting at for that journey, and you know which route, which tools you're going to need to get to that next level, that next destination that you want to be at. Okay, I am all wrapped up today, but I'm going to leave you with a couple of reflection questions. I want you to take some time to reflect on these questions, come back and share them with us over on the Facebook group if you feel so inclined. And remember that you can come back, and you should come back to this activity of self-acceptance regularly. Whether it's for the same topic or whether you're looking into a different area of your life, this is something that is not one use. This is something that you are going to wash, rinse, and repeat regularly. Okay, here are the questions for you. Where are you right now in your parenting journey? What are 3 things you love about yourself as a parent? What is one truth about yourself that feels hard to accept? As you take the time to receive and to enjoy the gift of self-acceptance, you are unlocking your parenting potential. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I want to encourage you to come back tomorrow where I'm going to be releasing another episode about the gift of grace, how we can parent with presence and compassion. You all have a wonderful day, and if you liked this episode, please rate, review. I would love to see your thoughts about this podcast, and feel free to share this. Share this with another friend, another mom, a parent who also needs this information, who needs to take the hard step of self-acceptance, and who will relish in the absolute gift that it is. And remember, if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete.